name is Zachary Lunghammer. I am from Leduc County, Alberta, and I'm a second-year student here at St. Therese. I will be reflecting on this Sunday's Gospel, which is an account of the Transfiguration from Mark 9, verses 2 to 10. The event of the Transfiguration is one that shows us our call to follow Jesus through the good times and bad, listening to him and the plans he has for us. Looking at the disciples who are with Jesus, that being Peter, James, and John, Peter is the one who has the most focus in this passage. In response to the appearance of Moses and Elijah, Peter asks to build 3 booths, or shelters, which may appear random. However, it can be interpreted that Peter is thinking logically about this, as the Transfiguration takes place during the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles. The Feast of Tabernacles would have the people reside outside in small shelters in remembrance of Israel's exodus in the desert. These tents would be surrounding the tent of the tabernacle, where the great cloud of glory, the presence of God, would reside. In this context, it's likely that Peter, by his desire to build 3 booths, is trying to prolong the heavenly experience of seeing Jesus in his glorified state, and trying to keep him and worship him in the terms of the Old Covenant, which he understands. Looking at this passage through the lens of St. Ignatius of Loyola's discernment of spirits, Peter is having a great experience of consolation, and may be fearing any desolations that are to come. Consolation being a time of joy, peace, and harmony with God, and desolation a time of dryness and a felt absence of God. Sometimes we want to stop and remain in the state of consolation, just as Peter is. How often is it that we'd rather stay in our consolations of great experiences we have and just wanting to make a good feeling last, rather than go through hard times and trials that lay ahead in life? Jesus has already mentioned before this event that he will undergo a death and resurrection, and so too will he mention it afterwards. Jesus' death and resurrection are something that are inevitable, and it will be a time of desolation for the disciples. As Jesus said to the disciples on the road to Emmaus in Luke 24:26, "Was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things?" Through this mountaintop experience of his glory, Jesus is giving his disciples an experience to have a strengthened faith for the trials that are to come, so that they may lead others. It is often that God will call us to put aside our own plans and follow his. Peter obviously had to set aside his own plans, and this is evident when the cloud overshadowed everyone and a voice speaks in reference to Jesus, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." We've heard this voice before, being the voice of the Father, at the baptism in the Jordan, when he said, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." These words spoken by the Father reiterate Jesus as the new Mosaic prophet who was to lead God's people on a new exodus to the fulfillment of life. It is striking to note the difference in the Father's words, "Listen to him." God is asking us to let go of our projects that we have for Jesus and instead embrace his mission. He is asking us to embrace both the consolations and desolations, so that greater works may come to be in all of our lives. It may seem terrifying at first, but the result is one greater than we can imagine. And this is evident by the cloud descending on Jesus and the disciples, that the presence of God is being introduced to us in a new way. We are to become living tabernacles in God's plan. Jesus' whole purpose is to make this call a reality, and listen to him is the call for us to follow him in that mission.